Amen. Will you guys give it up for our worship team? Hallelujah, man. We are so blessed. Go ahead and grab a seat. Welcome. If you got here a little late, we haven't met yet. My name is Pastor Greg Hintz. I'm so excited to have you here for our final message in our cow tipping series. Man, we've been tipping cows every single week, haven't we? We've been looking at those sacred cows of the church that need to be tipped over. And today I'm really happy to that we are moving into the area of leadership. Really specifically, kind of the thought or the idea that positional leadership is the way to go. Leadership with a title, then maybe I'll be a leader. But the reality that leadership is influence, and each and every single one of you, no matter where you find, you're influencing somebody. You are actively part of leadership. So today we want to talk about leading Jesus's way. Amen? Because we want to find the greatest leader. We want to get some wisdom from him for our lives. And I'm so excited to have one of our members, one of our friends here with us today to share. Now, he is one of those individuals that likes to fly away when it gets too hot, right? He goes to a little place called Minnesota and spends some time there in the cooler weather, but then comes back when it gets beautiful in Arizona again. And we love all of our winter guests who come and leave, but we're so blessed today to have Mark Deterding here to share his heart, what God's been doing in his life with his congregation, the Place Church. Give it up for Mark.
Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen. Right on, amen. Let's change it up. This is the place the Lord has made. And let us rejoice and be glad we're here today. I am really honored to be amidst all these great people who love the Lord and are making such a huge impact on this world. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. It's been just phenomenal. We feel so blessed to be welcomed here at the place. My wife and I, Kim, as Pastor said, we spend the winter months out here to get out of the snowfall, and we just really appreciate the home that we have here at the place in a big way. We want to talk about leadership today. First, I want to just give you a little bit of insight into myself. Many of you probably don't know me. I grew up, I really thought about being one of four things in my life. One was a professional baseball player, and I figured out pretty early on that God hadn't gifted me with the arm strength and the run speed to make that happen. So I moved on from there. I thought about three other occupations. One was a farmer, one was a pastor, and one was a printer. One of my grandfathers was a farmer, one of my grandfathers was a pastor, and my father was a printer, and I became a printer. So I spent 35 years in the printing industry, working at a couple of the largest printers in the world, and had the opportunity to lead thousands of people during that time, and learned a lot about leadership during that time frame. And after about 7 years ago, I set out on my own to really help invest into leaders, if you will. I'm an executive coach and servant leadership development consultant to really help people to understand what it looks like to lead Jesus' way, really what we call servant leadership. And so that's what I want to share with you a little bit this morning. First off, I always like to, when I just get started, I always like to understand who we have here in the group today. Wondering how many leaders do we have in the room? If you're a leader, could you raise your hand? Any leaders in the room? I can't start until everybody raises their hand. Exactly. Leadership has nothing to do with the title. Has nothing to do with the title. Leadership is about influence, as Pastor mentioned, and we are all leaders. So everything that we're talking about today absolutely pertains to you. pertains to each and every one of us, 100%. One of the problems is in our world today, when people think about leadership and look at leadership, it's why many of you didn't raise your hand, because you see, people think, oh, leader's the smartest person in the room, or the person who provides all the answers, or that person has this real highfalutin title, if you will, and so forth, who's flying in first class all the time, or has the closest parking spot to the front door. That's leadership. Well, our world thinks that, but that's what I'm here today this morning to really debunk that myth, that that's really not leadership. That's not the secret to leadership, not the secret to effective leadership. Really leading Jesus' way is. Jesus was very, very succinct on the type of leadership that he felt that we could all step into. And I had the great opportunity to really study this in detail over the time that I was a leader to really understand. I got thrown in way over my head early on, and I had to really look to say, what's effective leadership look like? And if you look at Jesus, you look at just what he did is took a senior leadership team of 12 people, turned that into 300, turned that into 3,000, and what is today in excess of 2.3 billion Christians. I'd say that's pretty effective leadership. So I think it's worth kind of taking a look at that and saying, what is it, and how Jesus really led, and how might we step into that ourselves? So let's dive in a little bit. Here's what I want for you today. I want for you to recognize that Jesus is calling us to be servant leaders. That is absolutely what he's calling us to be. I want you to gain an understanding of his model of leadership and exactly what that looks like and how we can step into that and really commit to heeding Jesus' command to follow me and start leading Jesus' way. That's what we all want to do. And we're all on that journey each and every day of the week. First off, what does Jesus want? I think he was pretty clear about that. When he was at the Passover meal and with his senior leadership team, they were all sitting around after the meal and starting to argue amongst themselves as far as who was the greatest. I'm the greatest. Oh, Peter said, no, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. They start arm wrestling over who's the greatest leader of them all. And what does Jesus say? You are not to be like that. You are not to be about positional authority. It has nothing to do with that. You are not to be like that. Instead, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. That's what you are to be like, is what Jesus said. He went on, another thing in Matthew basically said, follow me. Come follow me. Watch how I lead, and that's how I want you to lead. Just come alongside and learn how to lead. And here's where he really summed it up in Mark. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be a slave to all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And that's really the bottom line. We are here to serve others. So what I did, basically, when I stepped into this role of really investing into leaders and helping them to understand what that looked like to lead Jesus' way, I built this model so that people could say, okay, what does that mean? Servant leadership, what exactly does that mean? What do I do? Well, this is really the 5 key aspects, I feel, of what all of us need to do from the standpoint of servant leadership. A, we need to build a solid foundation. Everything rests on that foundation 100%. Then from there, we need to build energy amongst the team. We need to build energy around the people that we're around. We need to build performance. We need to be getting better every day. We need to build relationships. And what rests on top is building character. If we're not people of high character, the whole model tips over and nothing works. So let's dive into each of these specifically. First, on the foundation. Dalton Jansen did some nice work with the congregation in years past in really helping you to build your foundation here at the church, our foundation. And also, I think a couple weeks ago, many of you really took a class with him and said, what is my personal foundation? What is my personal purpose? And I applaud that. Absolutely, where everything starts as servant leaders is we get grounded on that. What is our purpose? Purpose, I believe, answers the question why. Why do we put our feet on the floor each morning? Why do we do that? What is behind that on putting our feet on the floor each morning? And that's what it's about at the place as well. Why do we do what we do? Your purpose or mission will define that. Our vision answers the question, what is it that we want to create? There's a better future out there. We're where we are today, but what is it that we want to create? What is that preferred state, that preferred future that we're wanting to create? Having that locked down and clear in our minds will help us get to where we want to get. Servant leaders make sure that we're doing that, getting to that preferred state. And values, basically what that is how we're going to behave on this journey. What is important to us, and how are we going to behave as we walk this journey of fulfilling our purpose and in our vision? Let's take a look at Jesus, how he built his foundation, his purpose. A couple different verses here that really define Jesus' purpose. First, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many, for all of us. That was his purpose. He also said, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. If you look at Jesus' life, his entire time on this earth, he was laser focused on that purpose. 100% laser focused, never deviated. Everything that he did was toward this end, to make sure that all of us have life. He gave it up all the way to the cross for us. He gave his life for us, and that was his purpose, 100%. Talk in Proverbs about vision, kind of the importance of it. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Whoa, that sounds pretty serious to me. I think we should have vision for what a preferred state is for our future. We need to do that, or we may perish, is what he's saying. Jesus cast a little vision for one of his followers, for one of his senior leaders. He was out fishing for fish, doing his normal thing, what he'd been doing his whole life, fishing for fish. Jesus changed his focus, changed his vision for his life. He said, you know what? Instead of fishing for fish, let's go out and let's fish for men. That is a preferred state. That is something that has a much higher value than fishing for fish, and changed that person's life, and changed all of our lives with that vision. Values, Jesus was very succinct on what his values are. Early on in his ministry, he went back to his hometown in Jerusalem, and he basically sat up and he said, here, I want to proclaim to you my values. And what he quoted the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah 61 said this, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. So there's his first value. Just know that you're going to see me proclaiming good news to the poor, to other people. He sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners. I'm going to free prisoners. I'm going to free people that are in captivity. And I'm going to give recovery of sight to the blind. You'll be noticing that I'm going to be healing people while I'm here. I'm going to heal folks, and you'll see that, throughout my life. I set the oppressed free and proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Those are things you can see. So he stood right up and said, here's my values, and this is what you can expect to see from me. And then he walked that every step of the way. Each of us individually need to have our foundation laid out. We need to know what our personal purpose is, our values, and our vision. And when we do that, we'll get there. My personal purpose is to glorify God by helping leaders to lead at a higher level to enable them to achieve their God-given potential. That's why I put my feet on the floor every morning, set out to do that. I couldn't wait to get up this morning, up at 3:30 a.m. I get to, do what I do of really helping leaders to understand what it looks like to lead at a higher level. That's a great thing. Get locked down on your foundation, and it will absolutely drive what you do on a consistent basis. Let's look at the church, the Place's foundation. A part of it is the mission. Demonstrate God's love to our community. Whoa, lock down on that. Disciple people into fully developed followers of Jesus and declare God's kingdom to the world. There is all kinds of great evidence that illustrates the phenomenal job that each and every one of you are doing in stepping into this foundation as members of the Place Church. 100%. The work that you're doing at the Timothy House in Africa, helping children out there to have lives that they wouldn't normally have if it were not for you. You're going to Streetlight. I had the opportunity to go there with the team yesterday. Unbelievable, the impact that you're having on young girls who are caught up in this sex trafficking, but bringing them back to life and life in Jesus and so forth. How phenomenal is that? If that's not demonstrating love, God's love to our community, and that is just absolutely phenomenal. And what you're doing in this community of Wickenburg every day to make this a better community for all the people that live here. As individuals, as members of this church, that's what we want to do. When we get up of a morning, step up and say, okay, how am I going to go out and demonstrate God's love to this community today? What does that look like? How am I going to go out and disciple people into fully developed followers of Jesus? That's what we want to do. We want to be stewards of this great foundation that we have at the Place. All right, let's move to building energy. Once we have that foundation built up, and established. Now we really want to build energy around it. It rests on leaders' shoulders to get that energy flowing, to get everybody excited about that. Well, one way you do it is you clarify the foundation and you talk about it every day. If we're not talking about that mission of going out and making, spreading God's love in this community and making disciples of Jesus, if we're not talking about it every day, guess what? It's going to fall into the background. And all of a sudden, we're going to forget about that. We're going to go on to other things. Leaders keep that foundation, those important things, right in front of us all the time, making sure it's right there. That will build energy in people. That's exciting to make a difference in the community, in the world. We're making a difference in the world. That's exciting. That raises our energy level. Worthwhile work. It's up to leaders to make sure that people understand how important they are to the work of the foundation. Right? A person wouldn't normally possibly know that. If they're handing out bulletins or working in the parking lot, the impact, the difference that they're making, well, they're making a big difference. Being part of this service, I got a sheet that listed all the people that make a service happen here at the place on any given Sunday. There's right around 50 names on that sheet of all of you that make this happen on each given week. That is, yes, give yourselves a hand for that. Absolutely. It's 100%. That doesn't happen without each and every one. That's worthwhile work. That is absolutely worthwhile work. And I hope that you're, running around trying to find and let people know how important they are to this. That's what leaders do. That's what servant leaders do. Putting people in control of the goal. Allow people to do what they do. Use their brain. We don't want just hands and feet. We want brains. We want people in the game, really, doing what they know is best, doing what they know needs to be done. And that's what will bring people energy when, as a leader, you allow them to do that. Recognizing people. If you decide to only leave with one thing today, with one thing of what I said, a lot of material here, there's one piece that I want to take out. This is the piece that I would like you to not lose, not miss. Be the folks within your sphere of influence, be their biggest cheerleader. Recognize people. I always told my leaders here, let's break down your job. One job and one job only. It's your job to go out and catch people doing the right thing and let them know how much you appreciate it. Let them know how much you appreciate it, absolutely. That's what it's all about. People, they need to be recognized for the great work they're doing. I would challenge you, in this service today, is to find at least one person that had a big impact on this service. After the service is let them know what a fantastic job they're doing. Whether it is a greeter at the door, whether it's either of the pastors, whatever it is, the praise band. Holy cow, how blessed are we by them? Let them know about the fantastic job that they're doing to make this such a magnificent worship experience every day. That's our role as leaders, to lift people up, to recognize people for the great work that they're doing. And lastly, invest in people. When you invest into people, that will absolutely raise their energy level. When they see the leader, the person who cares about them, the mother, the father, whatever, investing time, in them, that will raise their energy level. What's a great way to invest in your children? Time, exactly. Invest time. Every one of us has 24/7 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. That's how we all have the exact same amount of time. Nobody has any more, nobody has any less. How we prioritize that time is what makes a difference. When our kids or when people within your sphere of influence see you investing time, being very specific about the time that you give them, that you invest in them, that will raise their energy levels to a whole new level and really lift them up and get them going. And I encourage you to do that. Let's look at Jesus and how he did some of these things in building energy. First off, significance of the work. He said, "Come follow me," Jesus said, "and I will make you fishers of men." Wow, that is very significant work. Unbelievable. You're stepping into, I've got this vision of something you're stepping into that is incredibly important in our world. Building energy. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord, not for men. It's the Lord Christ you are serving. Here at the place, we are serving the Lord Christ. You look at your mission, our mission, you look at that and we say, whoa, we're serving Christ, we're serving the Lord. That is important work. Very, very important work. Jesus is telling us that's important work. That hopefully gives us energy to go out and do it that much more, that much faster, 100%. Delegating authority, putting people in control of the goal. Jesus absolutely did this. He taught people during his time on earth, but then what did he say in the Great Commission? Go, right? All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Now you go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. He didn't walk them by the hand and go out, every step of the way. He said, go. You got to go out and do it now. I've trained you up. It's up to you. And that's really what he's telling us now. He's put us in control of the goal. What are we doing to go out and make disciples of all nations? To live out the mission of the place every step of the way. That's for us to do, and it gives us a lot of energy to be able to do such worthwhile work. And then how did he acknowledge people? This was just one of many times that he acknowledged people. At one time, Jesus asked Simon Peter, he said, who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? And he said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, whoa, wow, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this wasn't revealed to you by man, but by my Father in heaven. Great job. That is exactly right. He is encouraging them. He is encouraging him, telling him what a great job that he's doing, understanding who he was talking to. That's what we need to do as leaders, as people all the time. And we have people, it doesn't matter who you encounter in any given day. It might be the checkout person over at Safeway. Let that person know the significant, what a great job they're doing. Fantastic work. I really appreciate how you've made my day today and efficiently checking me out. The third piece of servant leadership is really building performance. So often, people hear this term servant leadership in our world today, and they think, oh, that's just a nice little soft environment, nice unicorns and rainbows and all that kind of stuff, and that's not, really not. Well, that's not at all. Servant leadership is not soft at all. Jesus absolutely expected more every step of the way for all of his people. And I believe you build performance by a couple ways. One, build a dream team. Bring the very, very best people on board to make it happen, because we don't do it alone. We build it with the best people. And two, we raise the bar every day. Every day we get better than what we were yesterday. Big time. Let's look at how Jesus did that. You think about the importance that Jesus had of building a dream team. These 12 people that he had on his senior leadership team, those were pretty important people. What did he do? He had basically a 14-month interview process of these people. And then what did he do? He went and prayed to his Father for an entire night before he made those selections. Really, really, really important stuff. Guess what? That bar is high. All of us, to bring the right people, we have that opportunity as well to pray to our Father and ask for guidance on the same thing. Who are we calling upon to, when we make that hire, when we bring somebody into the sphere, when we bring somebody on the team here at the place, God will guide those decisions. And that's exactly what he did for Jesus when he pulled his senior leaders together in a big way. These are some things, kind of commandments to us, not commandments, but lines to us, that scripture that basically says, you know what, I'm raising the bar. I'm expecting a lot out of each and every one of you. First, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Oh, that's a high bar. That is definitely a high bar. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. And so then none of you can be my disciple who does not give up all of his possessions. That's a high bar. That is a very, very high bar. I believe that Jesus intentionally raises that bar so high that he knows we've got to depend on somebody other than ourselves. That we need to look to his guidance, his strength, and so forth to really do these things. That's the only way that any of the things that he calls upon us to do is to do. And that's why he raises the bar so high. He expects great things from us, 100%, but he also promises anyone who believes in me can do the same thing I do, 100%. So there's a promise. Just call on me every step of the way. He demands that high performance so that we depend on him. And I saw that in a big way. Like I said, I was cast in way over my head so many times in my career. And guess what? If you try to do it yourself, you're going to fail so fast, it's unbelievable. But if you go to the Lord and rely on the Lord, that for that strength, that guidance, that wisdom, and so forth, he's going to be there for you every step of the way. And that's why that bar is so high. Here's a little prayer I love around this whole aspect of building performance. Very simple. I can't. You can. Please do. Thank you. Can be that easy, right? I mean, I can't is the recognition that, let's bring our human nature in. We can't do it. We cannot do it on our own. But then recognizing that God can. With God, all things are possible. Let's recognize that and lift him up for that. God, we know that you can do it. And then to ask, please do. God loves requests from us. That relationship there. So just ask that request. And then above all, don't forget the aspect of gratitude. Thank him for all the great blessings that he has given us and all the great guidance that he has given us each and every step of the way. All right, the next piece is building relationships. Building relationship, we don't go through life, we don't go through the things that we do through fulfilling the mission here at the place on our own. We do it together, collectively together. On our own, we're not going to get done near as much as we can collectively. How can we as leaders be intentional about building relationships? What does that look like? Well, first, mutual respect and trust. That whole recognition that nobody is any more important than anybody else. Right? That's what we need to be as leaders. That's what Pastor mentioned. It's not about positional authority. That's what the world would say. That's not what Leading Jesus Way would say. Nobody is any more important than anybody else. Listening is absolutely important. You watch how Jesus led. How many times did he ask questions and then sit back and listen? Ask questions, sit back and listen. That's what we need to do as leaders too. It's not about providing answers. If all you're doing is providing answers and wanting to talk all the time, you're probably not going to have much influence. People aren't going to want to hanging out with you. On the converse, if you are interested in people, asking them great questions, listening to what they have to say, and moving them forward, you're going to build a significant relationship in a big way. Build on people's strengths. Recognize that everybody has their own unique strengths and put them in areas of strength. When you do that, you will enhance your relationships in a big way. Everybody can't be a fabulous pastor like Pastor Hintz and Pastor Rex. They're phenomenal, but everybody can't do that. Everybody can't be great on the soundboard. Everybody can't be great in, greeting out in the parking lot. But put people in areas of strength. That's what it's all about, 100%. And when you do that, your relationships will flourish. And lastly is love. The most important aspect of building relationship is lead with love. There's a verse in 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 8. Paul is talking to the Corinthians here, and he's basically telling them about love. But he's not talking about the feelings of love here, and that's not what I'm talking about is the feelings of love. What I'm talking about is the behaviors of love. Last time you saw this verses probably is in a wedding. Well, I call these the greatest leadership passages that are in the Bible. They really outline 8 behaviors of love, 8 distinct behaviors of love. Patience, kindness, humility, respectfulness, selflessness, forgiveness, honesty, and commitment. Each of those, we have a choice. Again, we're not talking feelings, we're talking behavior. So we have a choice. Can we step into patience or not? Will we or not? Will we step into being kind or not? Will we step into being humble or not? It's a choice that we make. And as leaders, as we work to step into these 8 behaviors of love, more and more and more your relationships will skyrocket. Who doesn't want a leader? Who doesn't want a friend? Who doesn't want, anybody in their life that steps into these 8 behaviors of love? And that's exactly what God is calling us to do. That's exactly what Jesus is calling us to do every step of the way. I want to share a story about how Jesus really emulated this and built relationships. And we've heard this story. It's about the leper, and Jesus went and he saw a leper. And he said, a man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees, if you are willing, can you make me clean? Jesus was indignant. He reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said. Be clean. Immediately the leprosy left him and he was cleansed. Let's take a look at that a little bit and see. In this day and age and this culture, if you had leprosy, you were absolutely an outcast. Nobody was supposed to go even near you, 100%. You're out there, stay away, right? What did Jesus do? Totally the opposite. Exactly, totally opposite. He went over and he touched the individual. Not only you were not supposed to touch people, you're not even supposed to get close to people. Jesus did just the opposite. He could have easily healed that leper from 100 yards away. He's God. He can absolutely heal. He doesn't have to be close. He went over and touched the man 100%. So what are some of the things that you see in that story? One, he was approachable. Jesus wasn't sitting up in a corner office where just, casting out, orders and all these things. He's out in the mix. He's out in the mix amongst the people. Every step of the way, he's absolutely approachable. You look at the teachings in the Bible, how many times was Jesus sitting in the synagogue or in the church? Very, very few. About three or four out of the 150, 160 times that we hear of Jesus' teachings. He was always out in the mix, always out, being approachable with people every step of the way. That's what we need to be as well. Entertaining requests. He allowed that leper to, ask him, to be healed. 100%. That's what we as leaders need to do as well. Are we getting out there amongst people that might not be comfortable with us? Lepers, everybody stayed away. We still have the situation like that in our world today, right? Whether it's children in Africa, whether it's girls that are being trafficked, from sex, right now. That's the wonderful thing about the place is this church has said, no, we are going to go out into the mix. We are going to go, work and help people that might not be just like us, that might need some help. And that's exactly what Jesus showed us. That's how we build relationships every step of the way. Take no offense. Jesus didn't scold the guy for saying, of course I can heal you. What do you mean if you can heal me? He didn't say that. He took no offense at people. He engaged absolutely emotionally by that touch. The touch was far more than touch. He wasn't just healing leprosy. What was he doing? Building relationship. Building relationship by getting up close and personal with somebody, meeting their deepest needs, and in that revealing his true character. This is exactly what all of us have the opportunity to do every day as we build relationships. Last piece of the whole model of servant leadership is to build character. As I mentioned before, if we're a leader, if we're an individual, if we aren't somebody of high character, everything tips over. There is no influence. None of these things that we've talked about work at all. Here's some things that we can do to build character. First off, be present and approachable, like what we talked about, just like what Jesus showed with the leper. Demonstrate value and appreciation to people every step of the way, and align your words with your actions. That's what's so important. What are people going to believe? What they see, what they hear you saying, or what they see you doing? Right, what they see you doing, 100%. It's what we do every step of the way that really illustrates, our values, that illustrates the type of leader that we are. And that's why it's so, so important to make sure that you align your words with your actions, or your actions with your words, if you will. Let's take a look, let's take a look a little bit at Jesus in this whole model and how he pulls this together. First off, he builds a foundation that his apprentices can emulate. These people, these leaders that he put together, his disciples, he really built this foundation, this purpose, this vision of what could be this preferred state, these values. How do we go about setting out and modeling those every step of the way? He trained them on that, and he built something that it could be followed to what is now over 2.3 billion. He built energy in his followers, enabling them to act. He lifted them up. He told them how worthwhile their work was. He put them in control of the goal. He told them, what a great job that they're doing. Every step of the way, we can do that. He built performance. He expected greater things of all of us. If he didn't do that, no telling where we would be today. If the place didn't do that, there's no telling. You might be still back in the original building. There was far greater vision for the place. Far greater vision from the Lord for the place and where it ends up to be today. And we're just getting started, right? Just getting started at the place. What this can become and the impact that we can have in the world, 100%. Relationships of friendship, he illustrated to people on how to really build relationship. And lastly, he illustrated that character by walking the talk every step of the way. Let's look at that walk of the talk. This is a story, it's a little small on the screen here, but think about the day, the night of the Passover meal. In those days, when you would have a meal, everybody would get together, everybody would show up there in sandals, no socks or whatever, so bare feet, that type of thing, walking through dirty roads and, all kinds of stuff in the roads from the animals and everything. And so what do? You have to, when you get there, you have to wash feet. Because guess what? There's no chairs. You're sitting around eating a meal and you're laying, next to each other, so people's feet's going to be right next to where other people are eating. So there's a custom that says we have to wash feet. Who was the person that was in charge to make sure the feet were washed in any time people got together like that? The servant. The very least of these. Whoever was the lowest on the totem pole in the entire room in any given, gathering, that's who had to wash the feet. That's who was expected to wash the feet of people. That night, on one of the last days that he and his team were together, who washed the feet? Jesus. Jesus put the towel over his shoulder, went around, and washed each and every one of those people's feet. Living color, didn't have to say a word, just illustrated exactly what serving looked like. There's all kinds of things that you might think about. What does the servant, washing of feet look like today? What might that look like today for us as leaders and people within our sphere of influence? How might we model that same thing? That's really what Jesus is calling us to do, 100%. He not only did this, but then he walked the talk all the way up to the cross on our behalf. All we had to do is watch and see how he served each and every one of us every step of the way. That's exactly what this is all about. Everything that I've talked about today is about moving from this standpoint of success on what the world might see success over to an aspect of significance. Servant leadership, serving others, is significant work. Each and every one of you has been gifted with your life from God. God created you, and you have a gift, you have a platform. You have a unique platform that every single person, nobody else has that platform. You alone have that. You interact with people that only you interact with. How you use that platform is what we're talking about here. That's what people will be talking about too at the end of your dying day. When you think about your funeral and the things that they're going to be talking about, I'll guarantee you they're not going to be talking about the amount of possessions that you ended up accumulating during your lifetime. What they are going to be talking about is the significant impact that you personally had on their life. The day that you put your arm around them when they were struggling and having a tough day. The day that you might have introduced them to Jesus Christ. The day that you were celebrated with them when they had a birth in the family. Those are the things, that's significant work. That's stepping out and lifting people up and embracing people, building relationships. That's leadership. Those are the things that make a difference in people's lives, and that's what you'll be remembered for. That's what we're called to do. Each and every one of us is to make a difference in life. And guess what? It's not just here on Sundays. When we come to this place, it's wonderful. It's absolutely, the worship is incredible. But that's the juice, the energy to go out of these doors and go out and really be that servant leader. That's what it's all about, each and every day of the week. Again, Jesus didn't just do it in the church. He did it out in the marketplace, out in the, in the lakes, the fields, the people's homes, the, whatever. Zacchaeus, you come down, let's go to your house. We're going to go hang out. Whatever it is, those are all things. That's what we have the opportunity to do too. Each and every one of us. That's why, are we all leaders? Yes, each and every one of us are leaders. We have the opportunity out in the marketplace, utilizing our unique platforms to lift people up, to share Jesus' love with others, to, bring God into this community. All of you are doing a fantastic job at that. I lift each and every one of you up. The evidence is so clear, is so great with all the great things that are going on at the place, and that only happens with the people that are sitting in this room. The place is not a building. The place is people. And people are making a difference. You're making a difference in this community. You're making a difference in this world. And I just lift you up and continue to pray for you each and every day for the great difference that you're making as you step out and lead Jesus' way and become the servant leader that God created you to be. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. That was excellent. And Mark, it's good to have you here with us. And something, I didn't say this last service, but, when Mark goes away for a while, I miss him. And I miss him for a reason, right? I'm not just saying this, but whenever he walks out of that church, I can think of no one who's more encouraging than Mark in my life. That he is just always speaking encouragement over me. And it's funny because that sticks out. And that's leadership. And that's the beauty that each and every single one of us has. Maybe you hear that and you says, well, I don't even know how to implement it. Start there. Start encouraging someone. Start speaking life into someone's life. Watch the impact that you're going to make and the difference that's going to happen. Amen?